basically, we just talked about variables, what variables are, how to create variables, what and what a variable name can have, keywords that variables are created with. So, can you briefly tell me about the keywords that we talked about in the last class? If you want to create a variable name to store something, what are the keywords that the three keywords that we talked about that are used to create variables?
Let,
Okay.
const,
Okay, so can you tell me the difference between them, or can you explain each of them to me?
and and
I'm waiting. No. Okay, so let me ask directly. What did I say a const is, and what is unique about the const keyword?
the const keyword is constant in a web in a web page. It doesn't change.
What does not change about it?
It cannot be easily changed other like other variables.
What about let and var? Okay. The assignment that I gave you last time, were you able to do it?
Yes, I
Okay.
created a web page from
I'm not talking of those ones. We'll get back to those. The CUDA and OPE later. Talking about the first class we had in JavaScript, I said you should create 5 keywords, then create another 5. The first 5 will be declared and not initialized. Then the remaining 5 will be declared and initialized. You still remember what declaration means and initialization means, right?
there.
Did you do the assignment?
No, I'm not sure. I can't remember you giving me that.
Did you go through the video I sent you the day you missed your class?
Yes, the one you did with Chebe.
Did you listen to it to the end?
No, I've not finished
I gave you guys an assignment. That was exactly the assignment I gave. There's no way I will end the class without giving you assignments. Except there's one you're working on prior before that. So when you go back, watch the 2 videos again, you'll see the assignment. I would add it here. You can mute. Assignment. Okay, so it's basically going to be one will be create 5, declare 5 variables without initialization. Create another 5 variables and initialize them. So this would be your, or this is the assignment I gave you in the last class. This is the assignment I gave in the last class. Chemere, you're welcome. So today we'll be talking about data types, and basically we have 2 types of data types.
Good morning.
Good morning. Were you able to do my assignment? Today's date is December 20. Cheme, were you able to get my assignment done? Today is 06. Why? I can't hear you. I can't hear you. December 6, 2023. I'm going to have a hitch. Alright. I'll continue. So we have 2 types of data types. There are 2 types of data types, and they are basically primitive data types and composite data types. Okay, so these are the 2 types of data types we have. We have primitive data types and composite data types. Primitive data types are when the word primitive is spoken, or if it comes to mind, it shows that it's not as complex, as complicated, or not as developed as the newer ones. But in this case, I would say not as complex as composite data types. Primitive data types are basically data types that contain one single value. By one single value, I mean, in this case, this is a primitive data type because it has just one single value, university. This is a primitive data type because this amount has just a number. The data type here is the value it contains. In this case, this is a number. This is a string. This is a string. This is a number. If I put this in quotes, either double quotes or single quotes, this automatically is now a string. It's no longer a number. I said for you to know a number or a string has double quotes. regardless of what is inside those double quotes, it is now a string. Is it clear? So what makes up data types are the value that the variables contain. In this case, this is a variable, amount is a variable, and what it contains is 2000, which is a number. This 2000 does not have quotes, is not in quotes, so therefore this is a string. But if I take it back to how it's okay, it was in quotes, but now it's no longer in quotes, it's a number. It's no longer in quotes, it is a number. So the data type of this 2000 is number, but the data type of 30 here is string. Why? Because it's in double quotes, or is in quotes basically. Same thing with Mercy, same thing with university. That's the type of data type. That's for primitive data types. And basically we have 5 types of primitive data types. Let me list them out. We have 5 types of primitive data types. I'm going to put this in a X UL. I'm going to put it in list, and it's going to be 6. It's going to be bold and V and S. So we have 5 types of primitive data types. We have string, we have number, we have null, we have boolean, and we have undefined. So let's get started with these ones. These are the data types that we have. And for composite data types, there are just basically 3 types of composite data types. So composite data types, we'll discuss them as we go on in the course of our study, because they are a bit complex than primitive data types. We have, in composite data types, we have what we call objects. Objects are just basically a collection of properties. For example, a human being has properties. A human being is an object. A human being has a name, a first name, a last name. A human being has a height. A human being has a complexion. A human being has likes and dislikes. A human being has genotype. A human being is basically an object. Object is anything that has properties or a function. That's what an object is. So this is an object. Another example of composite data type is a function. When I was explaining what JavaScript does in, I think, 12, like the last class we had on CSS, when you scroll, let me see if I can find something like that in a let me check. Home Depot. Let's see if access denied. Okay, let me see if there's anything like that. No, this does not have what I'm looking for. I would like to log in. Let's see. Okay, so if I scroll, you notice that this thing remains static, and I said that it's possible to be done using either HTML like CSS using fixed position, or it can be done using JavaScript. And what you tell it is basically on scroll. On scroll is a function. On scroll, let this thing be attached to the edge, the top. On scroll is a function. On click, let something happen. Function is when you perform an action, what follows it. Function is a set of instruction that is given to a system or the computer to carry out when an action is carried out on it. If I scroll is an action. If I click is an action. If I tap on a probably my keypad is an action. And all of those actions can be attached a function. A function is basically an instruction of what is going to happen when you perform that action. So when I click, this is what I want you to do. I want you to probably pop up something for me, a modal. I want you to make something disappear. That's display of none. I want you to bring an animation or just something. That is what a function does. Function is just a set of instruction that occurs when an action takes place. Very simple. Is that clear? Do you have any question?
Auntie, I have
Yes.
a question.
What's your question?
In this JavaScript,
Okay.
you know that in HTML and in CSS,
Yes.
you can introduce the use of pictures. Can you
Yes.
do it in JavaScript?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. But one thing with JavaScript is JavaScript makes use of HTML elements. Just like here, I can basically write my HTML element, right? Anything I want to do, I can write it inside of this HTML. But what JavaScript basically handles are the functions that occur when something happens, or if you want to add a couple of numbers together. If you want to make something happen on click, on mouse up, on keypad up or keyboard up or key down, anything, on hover, on anything, any kind of function that you can do within your system. If I click on probably this container, what do I want to happen? That's what JavaScript basically handles. JavaScript is all about functions that occur when an action is taken. So most times all you are going to be dealing on basically in JavaScript is functions. So this stuff that we're talking about is the basics, because you have to store something inside a variable for it to happen. So if you want to add an image, you're just basically going to add that image using your HTML. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any other questions? Clinton, do you have a question?
Yeah.
All right. So far I said that we have two types of data types. Let me get rid of this. It's tautology. We have two data types, and they include primitive data type and composite data type. And I said that primitive data types include strings, numbers, null, boolean, and undefined. I'll still explain them. So far we've been able to work with strings and numbers. We've not worked with null, nor boolean, or undefined, though we've worked with undefined, but I didn't make it clear. So I will talk about that's what we discussed today. Let me complete composite data types. And I said that composite data types are made up of three examples. Functions is the one I just finished explaining. The action that occurs, the set of instructions given to the computer to perform when an action occurs. So if I click something, what do I want that thing to do? It's just like when you click on submit button after filling in If you go to your Facebook account and you want to log in, after filling in your data and you click on submit, that click is sending a response to the server that you have input your details and you should submit. That submit is an action, and that submit is what will either give you access into your profile or bounce you back to tell you that your password is wrong or the username is wrong or something is not complete. You've experienced that before, right?
Yes.
Exactly. What happens there is that click that you clicked on, that submit, is sending a response to the server, and what it is telling it is check if the information matches what we have on our database. If it does, then allow it to go ahead to the profile. If it does not, tell it what is wrong. So if it's right, it will take you to your profile and you can have access to Facebook. But if it's wrong, it will tell you that your password is wrong or your email is wrong or the username is not complete. That's what functions do. Objects are just basically, like I said, objects are properties of something. A human being is like an object because we have different properties. We have name, we have color, we have height, we have different things. Just like a standing fan can have probably how many inches, or a television can have how many inches, or the height of it, or the weight, or the color of the television, or just something. Things that have properties are objects. So anything can be an object as far as it has properties. An ID card can be an object because it has a color, it has a registration number on it, probably has just something. So objects are things that have properties in them, or it's basically a function. So an object can be a function. The last one is what we call an array. An array is a collection of similar values. I will give an example. Let me write this array. Example of an array. An array looks like this. If I say today's date is December 06, 2023. So if I say const numbers and I say this, say 1, 5, 7 or 9, this is an array. An array is a group of or a collection of values that are related and they are separated by commas. That is exactly what an array is. This also can be an array. Const jobs, and I can say teaching. I can say development. I can say plumbing. Sorry. This is also an array. It can be an array of strings, an array of numbers, an array of objects as well. So anything that is similar and they are of different values and separated by commas is an array. Is it clear?
Yes.
Yes. If I ask question now, you people will not be able to answer me. These are array examples. Let me give you an example of objects. Just like we have arrays, we have objects. Objects are, for example, let me say I'm an object, so let me say Tessa. And an object, the difference between the object is this is a square bracket and this is a curly brace. Can you see the difference in the representation? This is a square bracket and this is a curly brace. So now, like I said, an object is something that has properties. So for example, I have a height, so I'm going to say my height is height is my height is 5 foot, let's just say 167. This is my height. Next, I have a complexion, and I'll say is a string. I'll say fair. I'll say comma. Without this comma, it will throw an error. Next thing, I have hobby. I'll say shopping. So these are different ways. This is what an object looks like. An object is a group of properties that an object has. Like an object is an object. Objects have properties. That is what objects are basically. While arrays are a group of um, similar values. I can have a group of numbers, I can have a group of strings, I can also have a group of objects. Let me bring this thing down so that I can add this to it. So I can add an object now, and I can say const mm, objects or students. Yes, let me use students. And students here is an array, but I have multiple students. So one of my students is Tessa, and Tessa is an object, right? And Tessa has all of this. Tessa has all this. What did I do? Okay. There's something I'm not doing right. Expected a comma. Let me see why it is throwing an error. Okay, let me check my browser and see what is wrong. Okay, invalid left assignment. Let me confirm the structure of array of objects. Let me be sure of what I'm writing. Let's see this one. These are just arrays of strings. I want arrays of objects. Okay, let's see. Okay. 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 All right. So this is how it is supposed to be. We have a group of students, and those students have names. There are going to be three of them. Okay. All right. So the first student is going to have a name, and the name is going to be Clinton. Clinton has a complexion, and his complexion is going to be fair. Um, hobby might be football. Okay, so the next student, you see that these are what am I going to call it? This is an array of objects. In this case, the object we're talking about here is Clinton, because that's the he's a student. This is an array of students, but this is an object. This is also another object. So I'll just put this thing in here, and I'll put this one in here. So right now, this is an array of objects. This is one object, this is another object, and this is another object. So arrays are just a group of things. This can also be an array. I can also decide to add a number here, 77, and this would also be an array. I can also decide to add an object in here. And this will also be an array. So arrays are just basically a combination or a group of things joined together. That's just arrays. That's what arrays are. Objects are basically things that have properties, and functions are things that occur when a set of instructions that are carried out when an action is when an action takes place. Let me change this to Chimeli, and I'll change this to Chibozo. So this is basically it. So far this is clear, right?
Yeah.
The structure is clear, abi? When you people go home, go through the assignments, go through the assignment, or go through the videos very well, because I'll always ask you and I will know if you went through it or not. You tell me you did or you did not. It's for your own good. If you don't go through it, you're the one that will be confused in the next class, and I try as much as possible to explain. It's left for you to put in the effort to learn, or well, continue. Okay, so let's focus on primitive data types. For example, we've talked about strings already. This is what a string looks like, this is what a number looks like. So let's talk about boolean. Boolean is very simple. Primitive data types. So boolean is just basically true or false. That's what boolean is. Boolean can either have true or false. That's it. What can either have true or false as the answer? Okay. Um, someone can be asked if um okay, Chimele, I can ask you if your gender is male, right? You are a boy, true or false?
True.
True. That's what a boolean is. A boolean either has a true as the value or a false as the value. So I can say gender, or what would I use? Two. I can't use that. What's the name of a variable I can use? Okay, sky is blue. Sky is blue. That is either true or false, and it is true. In this case, it is not a string. If you change this thing to a string, this is no longer a boolean. This is a string. This is a boolean. This is the difference. Is it clear? But it can only work with true or false. I can't come here and write um blue and expect it to work. This is wrong. This is me assigning this variable to another variable. JavaScript sees this as another variable. Is it clear? When you don't
Yeah.
put a string, when you don't put a string in, when you don't put a word in quotes, JavaScript goes to look for where you have declared it. I talked about it in the last class, Chemiri. I said that if you write this thing like this, you're basically telling JavaScript that you have declared this thing somewhere. Probably before you wrote this, I'll say const blue is equal to color. So it will go and look for blue. If it doesn't see this thing anywhere, to throw an error, but you see the error in the console. So let me get rid of this. Let's go to the console. It's throwing an error. Blue is not defined. But if I go back and I uncomment this, you see that the error is gone.
Yes.
That's very simple. So in this case, this thing is pointing to a variable and is pointing to this variable. But if this variable does not exist, it is pointing to a variable that is undefined. It does not exist. So in this case, you can only write through like this, and JavaScript will not see anything wrong with it. Or you can say false, and JavaScript will not see anything wrong with it. So booleans are basically true or false. Another one is JavaScript is fun. True or false? True. This is also another boolean. So the next thing I'm going to talk about, we already know what boolean is. We've worked with strings and we've worked with numbers. The next one is undefined. Undefined is basically just like declaration. This is an example of a primitive data type. This has been declared, but it is not initialized. This is undefined at this point. So let me say boolean. The next one is going to be undefined. And undefined is basically saying the children and leaving it like that. This is undefined. It is not defined because it has no value yet. It has just been declared without a value, so it is not defined. So the next one is null. Null is basically when you give something the value of null, just like const attire, or captain. And I give it a value of null. This is basically what null is. Null just has a value of null. Is it clear?
Yes.
The next one is boolean undefined null strings. We've seen strings before, and I'm going to say let race be black. This is a string. Next is number. So I'm going to say the multiplication three by 4, and then this is a number, or I can say the item 1 is equal to 25. This is a number. This can be a number. If you console log this, you're going to get the result of 3 times 4. Let's see what it's going to give us. For you to be able to see that, you're going to say log to the console multiplication. And I told you in the last class that if you want to find the value of this, you're going to use multiplication, and you're going to see the value of 3 times 4. It's going to give you 12. If I change this to 13 multiplied by 4, it's going to give you 52. So that's basically how numbers work. So far, do you have any questions? Are you sure you don't have any questions? Okay. So that's basically it. In our next class, you guys should go and do my assignments. I don't like the fact that every time that I come to class and I ask who did this or who did that, nobody will be able to answer. I don't like that. It's not encouraging. I want you guys to be able to answer questions in my class. Going through the classes is the simplest thing you can do for yourself. So basically, how you're going to, let me talk about something before I end the class. If you want to find the type of value this thing has, like I said, the data types, to be able to ascertain what kind of data type something is the value that the variables contain. So if I want to say the type of log to the console, type of, this is what we call a method, type of race you're going to see that race is a string, just like we have here. Type of tells you the type of data type that you have, or what data type it is. If I say, what is the type of children, it is undefined. If I say type of the sky is blue, forgot the type of it's in here, boolean is true or false. The type of year, number. So have you seen it? This method basically shows what type of value the variables contain. So if you want to check what type of value a variable has, you use what we call type of, and you check for them in your console.log. So that will be all for today. So your assignment is going to be very simple. I want you to create I want you to create 7 types of boolean numbers, null, this is going to be string, this is going to be undefined. Okay, and log all of them to the console and find their types using the type of method. So this assignment is clear, right?
Yes.
Clinton, are you in this class? The assignment is clear, right?
Yes.
People should not come to my next class and tell me you didn't do it or you did not see the assignment. Have a great day. Take care.